On this week's episode of Sports Page, we sit down with head coaches of Jenny's Volleyball and Mules Football, take a look at softball's trip to Aruba, and get a chance to talk to five-time All-American Jenny's goalie. Stay tuned as we take a look at all things UCM sports.
Welcome to this week's episode of Sports Page. Along with my co-host Jada Hill, I'm Allie Overstreet. As UCM sports are gearing up for their season, Jenny's Volleyball was ranked 4th in the MIAA preseason polls. I got the chance to sit down and talk to Coach Flip PIONTEK about the senior leaders and why he loves to coach here. So what have you been doing in the off season to prepare for your upcoming games this year?
You know, it depends on what you mean by off season. Okay, so normally what we call off season is the summer, and I really don't have any control over the off season, what the players do. Over the years, our culture of our team, we have expectations of players, and so we have summer workouts for them, and they're supposed to do some conditioning and some weight room and stuff like that. It isn't until the actual preseason comes, which we started last Tuesday, where I get to actually evaluate them. And so that off season period, there are always a few surprises. The surprises, you hope they're good. Most of them are. And there's always one or two surprises that you go, wow, I kind of wish this person had done a little bit more work in the summer. So it's, you know, the off season is a little bit out of my control. I have to trust the players. The upperclassmen, particularly the captains, the seniors, kind of try to keep the rest of the players, keep in touch with them over the course of the summer. And then when we start our actual preseason, it doesn't take very long to figure out who's done a little bit of work in the summer and who hasn't.
Who would you say are the leaders on the team?
The leaders on our team, it's a kind of a natural progression. For me, as the players put more time into the program, they gain more responsibility and more leadership roles, okay? So for me, I have 4 seniors. 2 of them are captains. Katie Carlson, she's a defensive specialist, a libero from Castle Pines, Colorado. It's just south of Denver. This is her 4th year, and she was elected one of the captains. She's doing a terrific job for us. Molly Lawrence is from Bloomington, Illinois. She's a 5th-year player. She redshirted her freshman year when she came, and she was elected captain also. So that's really, really cool for me to have someone who, the value of her 5 years in the program and the time she's put in, she's a really, really good role model for those players who might not play very much the first year or the second year. Because Molly didn't. She redshirted her first year, and she didn't play much when she was technically a freshman. But each successive year, because she's been persistent about what she's doing, her contributions to our team are very, very significant. She's a nursing major. She misses practice. She's already missed one practice this week. But it's really okay. The players understand that and our commitment to academics. And so for us, actually for me more than us, having a player who's a nursing major, who's not here a lot, being selected as a captain, I think that's a really, it's not noble, but it's a very cool thing that the players understand her commitment. And then they can use Molly as an example that, look, you don't have to start your first year. If you're not ready, it's okay. You just keep putting your time in and doing your work, and eventually things will work out. So that's really, really cool. I have 2 other seniors, Casey Holden. She's from Norris High School in Nebraska. She went to Furman her freshman year, and she transferred. I don't know exactly how it works. Her younger sister, Kylie, is a junior now. Kylie has been selected as one of the captains, which to me is a really nice thing because it'll help my transition after this year's seniors leave, that she'll transition to next year. I suspect she'll be captain, but I like both Kylie and Casey, and we were recruiting Kylie first. Kylie and Casey, their dynamic is really unique, and it's really wonderful to have those 2 here. And so I'm pretty sure Kylie committed first to us, and then Casey decided to come after that. So Casey is a senior this year. She has the potential to be, she has a very large impact on the team by playing middle. The work ethic and the commitment that she has will help us a lot. I mentioned Longo before. Miss Longo, she just makes me smile.
Yeah.
Okay, look, she's from Hawaii. She transferred from Western Nebraska Community College. She isn't. She's going to get court time, but she's not going to be a primary player. But her role on the team isn't that. Her role on the team, her energy and her outlook and she's just got a terrific impact on the players and how I would say she's probably the most vocal player on the court. So those 4 seniors plus Kylie as a junior, as the captain, junior captain, those will be the people that will kind of determine how the season goes.
How has coaching Jenny's volleyball affected your life? That's kind of like a loaded question.
I'm going to say it's a really loaded question because I've been here for 32 years. I've been here since my first official duty was in the spring of 1986 and that 86 season in the fall. My commitment to this program is second only to that of my family, okay? And so I've stayed in Warrensburg. I have 5 children and my wife teaches in the high school. We really liked raising 5 children here. But that combined with the opportunities in volleyball, if that makes sense. So I was an assistant coach for a very long time to Peggy Martin, who was the previous head coach and who is still coaching volleyball. That's her job in life. I mean, there's no other way to put it, but I was an assistant with her for 20 years because of the opportunities that I had in my family and the direction and the responsibility that Coach Martin gave me and the idea of how you're supposed to run a program and how you have players make a commitment to that program. And so those lessons that I learned from her, I try to just continue carrying them on. I just have a different body than hers, okay? I don't know that I'm that much different in terms of how we approach the game, in terms of what we want from our players. But the return from the players to me and their willingness to do those things and to go beyond their normal little boundaries and to step outside their comfort zone and watch them grow over the 4 years that they're here and even longer. Like I said, Maddie's now in her 5th year, Molly's in her 5th year, Courtney's in her 5th year. So as I watch them grow, that's the reward for me. Seeing them be willing to sacrifice some of their individual goals for the team, buying into that concept that the team is more important than self. Those things are very valuable to me. And so it's a job. Look, it's a job. It's how I help support my family. With 5 kids, I need a job, okay? But it's a little bit more than that for me. And so I consider myself very lucky to have found a job where it's something that I like and that I have fun at every day.
Coach PIONTEK really does love his job. Their first game is this Friday at the South Central Classic in Durant, Oklahoma. Moving on to another ranked UCM sport, Jenny Soccer. They are ranked number 5 in the country. So for this week's Senior Spotlight, Dale Fowler sat down with their All-American goalie.
Dale Fowler here with Honor Deals, Jenny's goalkeeper and 3-time All-American. You guys are number 5 in the country, number 1 in the MIAA conference. What is the team's mindset with this upcoming season?
Just to do our very best and go out there, have some fun, and just go out there every game and just play hard.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you guys, like I said before, are number 1 in the preseason polls in the MIAA the MIAA conference. So how do you guys feel you'll do against the MIAA opponents this year?
Yeah, the MIAA is a really good conference. So every game is a competitive game. So we just have to go out there and just prepare well and go do our best, and hopefully the outcome is our way.
Yes, you guys are 7-time defending champs. I'm sure you guys are ready for this upcoming season. So what do you expect in this preseason with the new players coming in? You being a senior, how do you feel? How would you be able to lead them?
Okay. Yeah, the players coming in have made it really easy to kind of adapt and kind of try and get to be as a team as fast as possible. They all have different styles of play, so it's really cool bringing in different kind of areas into one team. So
okay, but with you being a senior on this team this year, a leader, a captain, how do you feel? What is your goals to lead these new upcoming players to help them go to a 8-time, go to the next level?
Yeah, kind of just show them the ropes a little bit, how UCM soccer is kind of run and how we do things. Just you come here, do what Lewis tells you to do, and just take it with that.
So I see you guys have a great coach. she's been around for a while. How do you feel that she feels about these upcoming players this year?
He was really excited about them. He talked about them a lot coming in last year, so we kind of got what he thought about them, I guess, and then finally getting to see them play and whatnot is kind of cool.
Okay, good. So, like I said earlier, before we started this interview, you guys are number 5 in the country. So, how do you feel you guys are doing on the national level?
I can't really say right now, but obviously we hope to do the best. I mean, don't really look at stuff that much, just we're just really focused on every game. So right now we have a game on Friday that we're just preparing for.
So we got it right here. Here with Anna Dilks, the Jenny's goalkeeper. They're getting ready for the upcoming match on Friday. Looking forward to seeing you this season. I hope you have a nice year.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what comes of their season. After this break, we will hear from our sports editor and learn about what Jenny's softball did over the summer.
I choose red to blaze my own trail.
I choose red to be with students and faculty who make me feel at home.
I wanted a university with a big picture perspective. That's why I chose red.
Why do you choose red?
Choose red.
Choose red. Choose the University of Central Missouri. Choose red. Can I do that? Is that allowed?
Live with a human for a while and you get to know a few things. Like, I know she's actually not a morning person. I know she does strange tricks for no treats. I know that water makes her howl like crazy. I even know how the floor stays so clean. She's quick. But the one thing I will never for the life of me know is how she gets so tiny and inside that box. Natalie, how do you get so tiny?
Welcome back. In just a few days, many UCM sports will begin playing their season openers. We take it upstairs to the meal skinner for Jake WOERTHER to break down some of these games.
Welcome to News and Notes up here in the Mule Skinner. I'm Jake WOERTHER, and it is the most wonderful time of the years. Mules football starts this Thursday at home against the Pitt State Gorillas, and they might have their hands full with the Gorillas. The Gorillas had the top offense in the MIAA last season and 14th in the entire nation. They generated an average of 481 yards per game last season. This is a result of them having a solid game on the ground and a solid passing game. On the ground, they were led by Michael Rose with just under 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. And for the passing game, their top receivers were Brennan Clemens and Austin Panko. They combined for about 9 touchdowns. Now, the Mules will have some familiar faces on their side of the ball. They'll have at least 28 players that have started at least one game or more in their career, but they'll also have some new faces. I sat down with Coach Savoda earlier this week, and he said Brooke Bowles will get the start at QB after that position was open after Garrett Fugate graduated last season. Brooke Bowles had just 9 passing attempts last season and not a lot of sample to choose from, but he did have a solid game against Missouri Southern. In the third quarter, he came in for Garrett Fugate and threw a 29-yard touchdown pass and ran for 60 yards. And if you're looking for something to do before the Mules football game starts at 7, head over to the South Rec and see the Jennies play Southwest Oklahoma State University. The Jennies are set for another great season, returning 10 of their starters from last season and adding some new faces as well. Maddie Sanders being one of those new faces. She's a transfer from Florida Gulf Coast, and they look for her to make a big impact. On the Southwest Oklahoma side of the ball, there's some great competitors in there. They're from the GAC, so not from the MIAA. We don't see them as often, but it is a competitive conference. They do have some top players there. Alinima Rambo and Sandra Nebawetme are their top 2 players. They both led the GAC in goals with 22 apiece and led the conference in assists with 9 apiece. So the Jennies will have a handful with those 2. So a lot going on Thursday between Mules football at 7 and Jenny soccer at 3. Be sure to catch both of them. I'm Jake WOERTHER at the Mule Skinner. This has been News and Notes.
Now, I don't know about you, Jada, but this summer flew by.
You know what? It really did, and can you believe it's almost September?
Well, some of the Jennies softball team got a chance of a lifetime to represent the USA down in Aruba. Let's hear from them about their experiences.
It was a group of different Aruban girls that came together and we played them. I think we have a higher level of competition here. They do have some players that actually play in the USA, and they definitely stood out.
I mean, I know that they're very capable of keeping up. It's just like maybe lacking in some areas, but I mean, they weren't bad, and their age range was from like 16 to 36, so that was different also.
It was very different because she hit upon it, the age group, the age range, I should say. They were so young, like we had all the college age kids. Plus, we took over a very talented group. Like we had players that are pretty much at the top in the MIAA, and we're very good. MIAA is a very respectable conference. So when you take the top tier of the MIAA and you go up against kids, it was amazing. Like those pitchers weren't backing down. I mean, she was like 16 going up against college age pitchers, so kudos to her. And I mean, they made some great plays, and yes, it was like the heat. Like a lot of times if we did a doubleheader, we would only play 5 innings because there was no way you're going to be able to play 7 innings on top of 7 innings just because of the heat over there, just because with being on the sand, it's just so much hotter than what we're used to.
For me, like, what I kind of go back to is it was really cool to me, like, to see them out there wanting to play the game, because I know one of their players, I went over and played with them the first game that we played, and had a little conversation with one of their players who was a PE teacher over there. And she taught a lot of those girls on that team and played with them out there on the field, but they don't have like organized sports. And they don't have clubs. Like if they want to play, there's that one team that they get to choose to play on, and resources they don't have the resources we do. So obviously like the competition wasn't as high, but they went out there on the field and they worked hard every single game, and like they said, their pitcher was like 15 or 16 and she was just winging it in there. She didn't stop. It did make me like appreciate the game more, because no one's out there making those girls come play, and they're just out there to play and have fun, and they love the game. So it was cool to like give them competition, give them games, show them what it's like, get them experience.
Seeing what we have and compared to what they have, it made us appreciate it more, and seeing that they go out there for fun, and maybe it was different for us, but we were able to enjoy it, get used to how they play, and realize that we are really fortunate.
I think I agree with Coach on the fact that it makes you appreciate what we have over here, because they don't have a lot, but they still have a great time with the game, which is really awesome to me.
Just to see the cultural differences, like it makes you appreciate everything that we've got here in America, like with our fields, everything like that, because over there it's a lot of sand. There wasn't really any grass for the outfields.
Even like the back wall was a lot further, and it was a wall of concrete. So I mean, and then like they had no chalk, it was just lighter sand. So it was different, but you had to adjust to it, and I mean, everything ended up being kind of the same. You played the game the same way, but it was fun.
Like we've got bases that actually, we have like plugs that they go in and they stick. The first time that people were getting on and they were rounding the bases just go because they just have a base thrown down. Like there's no anchor for anything. So it's very different, but it goes back to like Ali Jo said, like they go out because they love the game. It's not about like the facilities or anything like that. And for instance, when we were all done, there was a catcher that we had on our team, and that was her senior year. She was done. That was kind of her last hurrah. She gave all of her catcher's gear to them because they only had one set. Because there was one time that they didn't have any catcher's gear, so we were letting them loan some of ours just to have it. So it just makes you appreciate everything we have. Plus, it was a great experience for these guys because they get to see and they gave like their jerseys off of their back, like they gave them a USA jersey. So it was really, really cool. Such a great experience for them to just realize that it is something bigger than themselves.
I'm definitely adding Aruba to my bucket list. That experience sounds amazing. When we come back, we'll sit down with Coach Svoboda to hear about football's plans for the season.
What if television could remember the heroes we honored, the music we danced to, the dreams we chased?
The hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
No one tells our nation's story like PBS. Give to your PBS station and help bring America's story to life.
I choose red for unlimited possibilities.
I choose red because my family is less than an hour away. but I still get to be independent.
I get to apply my classroom experience to my everyday life. That's why I chose red.
Okay, that'll work.
Why do you choose red?
Choose red.
Choose red.
Choose the University of Central Missouri.
Choose red. Kidding, that was a joke.
After making it to the playoffs for the first time since 2010 last season, the Mules football team strives to continue on further this year. Jada sat down with head coach Jim Swoboda to see what their outlooks are on this season.
Hi, I'm Jada Hill, sitting down with head football coach, Coach Swoboda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Well, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, okay, we are coming into this football season. The Mules football is looking a little bit different. We got a nice new turf out here. Could this be a new era to Mules football?
Well, we hope so. We're coming off a good season last year where we got back in the playoffs, and we have a lot of returning players that started games for us, and we got some guys back that were injured last year. So, you know, we're excited about you know, our chances this year. And you're right about the field. We just got it done in the nick of time for the season this year, and it's looking sharp, and players really enjoy it. And you know, it was really needed. We had the old turf was getting pretty wore down.
Yeah, definitely. So this is going into your 8th season here as head coach. How do you personally prepare for the season?
Well, you know, it's a year-round thing. First of all, it never really quits. You know, recruiting is something that you do really year-round. That's the foundation of your program. And so, if you're coaching a college sport and you find yourself doing nothing, you probably should be at least doing recruiting. But football is different from the standpoint that you only have 11 games in the regular season, and then you got to wait a whole nother year. So you get one game a week, and you put all your energy and effort into that, and you know, it's something that's very intense for that one contest. And in football, if you lose one or two, you're probably out of postseason.
Gotcha. Okay, so with that being said, what are your personal goals as a coach for this season?
We always feel like you know, we want to put our players in the best position to win every game they're in. And you know, I've kind of felt that way since we've been here. We haven't won every game, but you know, we prepared to do that. We've recruited the type of players and the depth at positions where we feel like we can have a sustainable program, be competitive every week. We're not into the quick fixes. We want our players to graduate. So we have high expectations for our athletes in all phases. They're academic, off the field, and certainly on the field. We want to build champions.
Okay, so speaking of building champions, last year you lost a huge facilitator on your team and your quarterback, Garrett Fugate. So kind of tell us who's going to fill that void this season.
Well, right now, Brooke Bowles is the guy, and Brooke is a junior, and he's been around our system for you know, several years and knows what we're doing. He got in some games last year, so he's not completely green in terms of competition, but it's kind of where he thrives. You know, he's a guy that's really developed himself. He comes from a family of quarterbacks. He comes from a family of athletes, and so he really thrives on the competition and really the game day environment. So we're excited about what he's doing. Kyle Bradley is going to be a sophomore for us, and he's also doing an outstanding job. So we have good competition with some of the other younger players too.
Okay, gotcha. So even though you have those new younger players, you do have some great veterans coming back, and Jalen Zachary and De'Aaron Rhodes. So what are you expecting of your veterans this season?
Well, what you expect out of them is just to be good leaders. They're guys that have been in the fray. They've, you know, played in big games. They've made big plays in big games, and so those typically are the guys that have the respect of the other players. They've kind of been in the fire, and you know, they've come through and excelled in that situation, and so that's sort of the big thing. You know, they're guys that they'll continue to make plays because it's kind of in their DNA. But what you hope to do is what you'd like to do ideally is you want your best players to be your hardest workers and your best team guys, and those are two really good examples of those kind of guys.
Well, that is perfect. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We have a lot of new faces on this team, some transfers. So tell us thus far, who's kind of stepping up for you and who's kind of really shown potential for this year?
Well, we have a few transfers. We do have a lot of new faces, but a lot of those new faces are true freshmen for us. We had a bigger than normal freshman class this year, but Kyrion Parker at wide receiver is a guy that transferred to us, and he's got some big play capabilities right now, and so some of the other guys are just kind of competing right now for positions. We had, like I mentioned, we had starting guys at almost every position, but you know, we did need some depth, and so we're hoping those guys can compete and do that for us. So.
Well, that's exciting. So this year, September 30th, you guys are getting a return to Arrowhead Stadium. So tell me, as a coach and for your players, what is it like to get that feel of that NFL experience?
Well, it was probably a little bit bigger deal than I expected. Like for our local kids that grew up Chiefs fans, it's a big deal for those kids. You know, a lot of them went to games in Arrowhead stadiums. They've been fans for a long time, but it's a big deal for our fans, for Northwest fans. There's a big alumni base in Kansas City for both schools, and then out there in the recruiting trail, we have, you know, pictures in our media guide, and then there's pictures online of the Arrowhead game, and then that's the first thing they say, well, you guys play a game in Arrowhead. So it became a pretty good recruiting tool for us too. So it's all good. You know, it's an opportunity to bring our level of football to a bigger venue, to a bigger audience. A lot of people, you know, their knowledge of college football kind of ends at the Division I level, what they see on TV. And the fact of the matter is, you know, I've coached at every level, and there's good football players at every level. And so that's one of the exciting things about playing there is more people get to see you.
Well, yeah, I'm excited for that game myself. So what would be the challenges that you think your team will face this season?
Well, one of the big challenges for us is we play such a tough schedule to start off with. I'm not sure if anybody ever in college football has played the first 5 games that have been tougher. And you know, we did that last year with Pitt State and Emporia State and Fort Hays and Missouri Western and Northwest. That's a pretty stiff lineup. All those teams have seen some kind of postseason you know, games recently. Great tradition with a lot of those programs, and so getting off on a good foot is going to be important for us, and a big challenge just because of the difficulty of our schedule.
Well, Coach, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think that was good.
Alrighty, guys. Well, make sure you stay tuned. Come out on August 31st here at 7 p.m.
Please
for
do.
the Mules home opener. I'm Jada Hill. See you guys next time.
I can't wait for the first game tomorrow. Jada, do you want to go together?
Of course we can, but we're going to have to talk about our outfits a little later. That's all we have for you on this week's edition of Sports Page. Take a look at what's coming up for UCM Athletics. For Allie Overstreet, I'm Jada Hill.